Let's make this Idaho pendant. My customer came to me with this silver coin, and she asked me to fashion it into 2 pendants with the outline of the state of Idaho, which is home for them. So we're going to get the process started. First, I had to print out the outline of Idaho and see how big I needed the coin to be to make 2 of them out of it. And I went ahead and I tried to lay out how it would look just so I could get an idea before I started the process. Now the little gem is going up in the panhandle, which is home for them, and the gem was gifted to them from a friend who mined the sapphire out of Montana, which is super cool. She had it heat treated and faceted and everything, and then gifted it to this person. So I went ahead and rolled out my coin, and I kept going and I kept laying the Idaho outline on top of it to see how big I needed it to be. And it actually turned out great. This fine silver coin rolls out extremely well, and it created the amount of material I needed for these 2 pendants. Fine silver forges really well. So for me to roll it through this rolling mill and anneal it and keep doing it back and forth, it turned out great. I was able to get exactly what I needed out of it. Now I'm going to lay out Idaho on there, and there we have it. We can get 2 out of this piece. And I cut out my outline. I switched my bench pin so I can cut properly, and this is the one I like to use. And so this cutting process takes a while. I sped this up because it takes forever, and I broke numerous saw blades doing this. I know, you're probably thinking, man, you're a rookie, man. But I have been doing this almost 20 years, and I still break saw blades. So that's just the way it goes. Then I went ahead and took a burr and started to cut out and get the fine details of the outline done. And I sanded the face and the back so it'd have a nice flat surface to start working from. There are the 2 pendants. Now, they wanted some whimsical trees, much like this design that they sent me. So I am going to start drawing my whimsical trees on here so I can cut them out with a graver tool. And it cuts into the pendant, removing silver, and then I'm able to highlight that by oxidizing the trees. So right here I'm just drawing them on, and after this I'll start to cut them out. A project like this takes a lot of different tools. I have to use this ball vise to hold my pendant in place as I start using my graving tool, and then it takes this graver tool which cuts out fine pieces of metal very precisely. I'm actually using a microscope here. You can't see the microscope except for the stand that you can see in the background. But in order to do this, as I have proceeded in my jewelry career, a microscope I found is essential. With it, you can get the fine details and see exactly what you're doing. Now, in order to set these gems, we have to put a bezel in there. So that's something that the gem will go into, and I'll be able to secure it by hammering down around the edges. Once I get that soldered on, it's time to start setting the gems. So I burr exactly the same diameter of this gem, and then I'm going to put a little beeswax on it so it doesn't move anywhere, and I'm going to start hammering it over the edge with this hammering handpiece. Now this is a really nice tool. It is an alternative to using a hammer and a little punch, which takes a lot more time. Once the setting is complete, now it's time to clean it up. So I'm going to remove all my hammer marks, all my filing marks, and head to the polishing machine. Now here I'm just going and highlighting the edges. I'm removing any sharp edges actually. And this is where your fingers get dirty. This polishing compound starts to fly around. It gets all over your fingers, and for me it's not the most pleasant part of the jewelry making process, but it is necessary. This is the buffing wheel, and you just get after it. You go and you polish all the edges and make sure the Sharpies are gone, and then put it in the cleaner. After this, we'll remove it and we'll start to do the final finishing process. This one has an extra step because these trees need to be colored in. And what I'm doing here is I'm giving it a matte finish with a Scotch-Brite pad. The matte finish gives it a more organic look, and it really makes the stones pop because I do polish the bezel and then I matte finish the rest of the pendant. I add some darkening agent to these trees, and once again going to polish off with my Scotch-Brite pad all the excess. And then we have the trees that are highlighted, and the rest of the pendant is the matte finish. The last and final step is to add our chain. We're using a sterling silver 18-inch chain. On this one, with a lobster clasp. So everything is soldered shut too. All the rings are nice and soldered shut, so this is going to last forever. My customers came in and picked this up, and they were extremely pleased and happy with how they turned out. They maybe even shed a tear or two. At least one of them did. So that's what I love about what I do, is making people happy, their vision coming to life, from a drawing or a photo or a sketch, and then they're able to actually wear the piece that will last for a generation. Idaho has a special place in my heart too, so it was a pleasure making this piece.